Welcome to the fourth user uptake webinar tracking climate security impacts in the Sahel region, advancing on SDGs Indicators Monitoring, Reporting and Accounting. My name is Francesca Piatto from the European Association of Remote Sensing Companies in Brussels, and today I'm here with some colleagues of mine, Norin Tertre and Monica Miguel Lagos, as official hosts of this webinar, together with our SDGs-EYES project colleagues from SATSEN. So welcome very much to our almost conclusive webinars of this very interesting project. I would like to bring you very quickly throughout the guidelines of today's webinar. As per usual, we would like to have you written your full name and organizations in order to visualize you and to bring you directly forward the breakout rooms at the end of the session. I would kindly ask you to mute yourself unless you're not speaking or asking any camera, which we welcome very much, of course. At the same time, you can use the chat to ask questions. And indeed, you can use your camera. Note that this session is recorded, so if you have any matters, you can eventually turn it off. And of course, if you can introduce yourself while you speak, before you begin speaking. A final point, there is a Mentimeter that we're going to use. So here there is a code 38347714, but you will see it also throughout the presentations. Thank you, Lorena. The agenda of today is a short introductions of the SDGs project by Manuela Balzarolo from CMCC. Then we will move on to the panel presentations and a short overview demo session of the SDGs pilot, indeed, tracking climate security indicators from Michele Lazzarini from SATSEN. Then we will go into the moderated panel discussions led by my colleague Monica Miguel Lago. Then we will slowly move on the breakout room sessions, 20 minutes in total, and then the concluding remarks and next steps. Thank you. I will then pass the floor to Dr. Manuela Balzarolo, our SDGs project coordinator from the CMCC Foundation, who will briefly introduce you to the overall project. Thank you very much, Manuela. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, for the introduction of this webinar. And I'm the coordinator of this project, and the SDGs stands for Sustainable Development Goal, and this is a project where we use Earth observation to improve our monitor of different SDGs, and mainly we rely on Copernicus data. So this is it's an Horizon project. It's a 3-year project. And we are almost approaching the end of the project. We will start soon the last phase of the project, because this project starts in January at the beginning of January 2023. And I'm the coordinator, and of course I'm assisted by other experts in project management at CMCC. CMCC is the center on is the European Mediterranean Center on Climate Change, and it based placed in Italy. But of course, please next. Of course, this project it brings together these different experts from industry, academia, and different experts from a stakeholders community. And we are partners from different European countries, as I say, CMCC in Italy. In Italy, we have also the company working on the dissemination of the results and communication is T6. We have also local stakeholder for from Italian Health Services. And we have in Spain, SATSEN. SATSEN is also the leader of this pilot 5 that will be presented today, and it acts also as a stakeholder in the same pilot. We have, of course, ERSC is helping us in the uptake and the co-design of each service that we are developing in the project. With us is working also the University of Wageningen, and they are supporting the co-design. And we have two small and medium enterprise, Sistema in Austria and Forest Design in Romania. They are working on the implementation of the service for Romania country for forest design, and Sistema is working on building up the platform of the project. Altogether, we try to put our knowledge and to define services that are usable for stakeholders. And this is, in this infographics, is represent the main part of the project. So very briefly, the project is composed by 4 blocks that are all interconnected. We have the science-driven part that is led mainly by CMCC, where we, at the beginning of the project, we put all together the existing methodology for retrieving and monitoring SDGs using Earth observation, and we defined the best approach to use for the developing of each service. But of course, we do not work alone. We wanted really to keep in touch with end user in a co-design user-centered methodology. And we define some pilots, and pilots are the area where we develop and demonstrate the usability of our service. And all this information are put in the platform of the project, where scientists and experts in Earth observation can play with data and can develop the workflow for each indicator. And this is, we use a lot of these different existing services, from Copernicus, from Earth observation, from Sentinel data, and for each to each service, each indicator, we develop a specific methodology, and we tested it. And now we are almost all services have a platform and a user front-end developed. So, and it's here in this map, it's shown the location of different pilots. So we have the pilot on green GHG emission from forest fire in Italy, in south of Italy. We have the pilot on forest cover and erosion in Romania, a pilot on eutrophication and acidification of North Sea, in the North Sea region, of course. We have a pilot in Italy for understanding the impact of extreme temperature on a population in the city of Turin. And we have a pilot outside Europe that is located in a Sahel region. And this is the pilot number 5 on climate security. And today, Michele Lazzarini with his colleagues will give a demonstration of this pilot, the pilot 5 on climate security. So I would stop here and leave the floor to Michele to continue the discussion, and also to invite the stakeholders to give their feedback on what we are producing in the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manuela. Before indeed having Michele presenting the SDGs pilot, I would just like to highlight in a very few words the purpose as well of these webinars.
Sorry, I forgot to stop.
No problem, no problem. As you were saying, indeed, a strong component of this project is indeed the user uptake series of webinars for each of these SDGs pilot, in order to enhance not just the development of a scientific and technological framework, but also to foster engagement with the community, and therefore making this pilot uptaken towards other regions and other communities of users. And hence the approach of all these pilots has been always a circular approach through the co-design approach, in order to understand from a technical perspective all the needs of these users. And we are now in the in the process of understanding instead users' needs from other communities. And hence this kind of forum of webinars with all these communities really are an extremely added value to foster the development of these pilots, as well as with a perspective indeed of exploitations of these pilots results. So the idea is indeed to have a very nice conversation this afternoon across this pilot with all of your inputs and to see how to integrate into this pilot. So I will now indeed invite Michele Lazzarini, project manager from SATSEN, to provide a presentation on the SDGs pilot. Thank you, Michele.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I will share my screen. So,
yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, so you just have to put it in slideshow. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, let me minimize a couple of things. So, okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks to Francesco for introduction. I'm Michele Lazzarini, project manager at European Satellite Center, and today I'm going to present you the result of our so-called Pilot 5 on climate security. The activities related to this pilot have been performed together with my colleagues Miguel Berenguer. Will present you also in one of the other sessions the demo, and also our colleague Ines Mendes who is also participating to this webinar. So before jumping to the activity related to the pilot, I will give you a few words about our center, the European Satellite Center. We are an agency of EU council we are located in Madrid. Actually, we are just outside Madrid in a town called Torrejón de Ardoz. We are a joint service provider. You probably know that joint is related to the extraction of information intelligence, specifically from Earth observation and other geospatial data, where we are a center tasked by our stakeholders, who are the member states essentially of the European Union, plus some other EU entities and international bodies. We are supporting EU policy and programs. So, for instance, the EU maritime strategy, the EU space security, security defense policy, and maybe you know us also because we are the trusted entity operating the Copernicus service in support to EU external and security actions. Actually, Maria Tamame is a member of a team, and he will be a panelist in the next session. Personally, I belong to a research innovation unit, and basically we are quite active in projects and activities related to Horizon Europe or EDF projects. Okay, let's move now to the activity related to this project, to the project and pilot. So our pilot is so-called the Climate Security 1. With climate security, we usually consider the activity related to climate change that has an implication on safety, security of a citizen. This is a sort of change paradigm of security, because security before was mainly considered a sort of standalone silos. But now, with, for instance, climate and other domains that are interested to shaping the new security, we can see a sort of new concept of security, call it new security. So basically, we can have climate security, food security, health security. So to better understand security scenario, you have also to consider other, let's say, interconnected domain. When we decided in SDGs in this project to tackle a specific indicator, we decided to we have to basically consider two main points. One, of course, being a center working in security, the indicator should be related to security, and also being a satellite center, the indicator should also use Earth observation data. In the SDG indicator list, there are several indicators related to security, but it's not very easy to find indicators that are using Earth observation data. And one indicator that can actually fill this void is this indicator, the 13.1.1, the number of deaths, missing person, directly affected person attributed to disaster per 100,000 population. As you will see in the next slides, we will use different type of data belonging to different services of Copernicus, plus of course Copernicus data. And the idea is to better understand the link between climate security in the Sahel region using a specific SDG indicator. What we are doing in this pilot is estimating the area affected of affected building and people by flooding, highlighting the intersection between natural disaster and human presence. You will see basically the indicator, if you read the test, is actually considering several types of disasters. And of course, the idea is in the future to ingest other type of disaster in this indicator, but we have to start from somewhere, and we decided to start from flooding. The partners developing this pilot are SATSE, and the technical partners that are working with us on the back end and front end are the CMCC and Sistema. The stakeholders of this pilot are SATSE staff, because the idea is to developing some tools and interface that will be used by SATSE staff for doing their analysis, advanced analysis, let's say. The SATSE stakeholders, the one that I said before, related to the EU member state or other entities, potentially the Copernicus service on support to EU external security action, SESA, the other member of a geospace security conveners group, SATSE leading actually this GEO, if you're familiar with the group of Earth observation, is actually leading the space security now conveners group, before it was called the pilot initiative, plus other, of course, international, regional, and local entities. The study area, we decided to focus on the Sahel. This is not the first time we work on this region. Before we work in another project called GEM on this specific area. Why? Because I think the Sahel is quite a very good representation of climate security. You might know the Sahel region as the area lying below the Sahara Desert and is spread across the whole African continent. And it's a good case study, because you can find in Sahel climate change, hazard. There are several cases of food insecurity, and in some regions there are also some political instability. So basically, all this, the merging of these topics, basically, it gives us quite a very good scenario to study for better understanding climate security. We started to focus specifically from the Sahel on Niger. We have other the database has been created not only for Niger, but specifically for the calculation of the index. We did our first test on Niger. So basically, the idea was to having a sort of ground truth database related to flooding. This has been found in the Disinventar Sendai database, and Iria from the United Nations for Disaster Risk Reduction is also a panelist in this webinar. Maybe she will tell you something more about this database. So from one side, the ground truth of the database of the flooding, specifically also with the number of affected houses and people, and on the other hand, something where we can see the flooding from space. Initially, we started to use Sentinel's data. Why? Because they are free and they offer like a global coverage. And you can see here quite a very nice example of flooding in Niamey, in Niger. And basically, with this type of data, overlapping this data with some sources of buildings or population. For instance, here you have OpenStreetMap, but you can have also the global human settlement layer from GRC. Let's say calculating or having an estimation of a number of affected building and people is quite straightforward. But when we analyzed, let's say, a bigger number of events, the flooding with Sentinel was not very easy to be highlighted. Why? Because first of all, with Sentinel data, especially Sentinel-1, so SAR sensor, there is a sort of noise in the backscatter signal in urban area. Actually, the GLOFAS products were the one the official product, let's say, about regarding flooding. We don't really consider in urban areas, and also many times in this region we have also flash flooding. So sometimes the passing of a salary doesn't it doesn't overlap exactly with the event of a flooding. So we use some other data as approximation, let's say, for the flooding. The initial user requirements, I will not go through all of them, just to tell you that basically we had another webinar in 2024. It was more related to the co-design. So maybe some of you participated to that webinar where we basically consider specific requirements from the user. Some of them been already implemented. Some of them will be implemented in the last part of the project. This is the so-called sprint 2 of a project. One of them, for instance, will be to extend the number of hazard, and one of these hazard event will insert will be drought. And also some other, let's say, requirements will be implemented also regarding the output of a product we would like to see is from the developed tool. The data we use, as I told you before, sentinels were considered at the beginning, but I mean, they can still be considered for the future, but since we don't have enough number of flooding with sentinel, let's say we put it aside for a moment. We use another approximation data for the flooding, and this data is related to chirps for the precipitation with a resolution 5 km. We use other type of data related to understand the population and let's say the human footprint. So the global human settlement layer, the OpenStreetMap, land cover map from ESA, the digital elevation model, the dam for the, let's say, for the basin of the river for the flooding, plus for the ground truth for the, let's say, flood, to have a sort of database of inventory of the flooding. At the end, we use the Disinventar Sendai database because it was way more complete than the MDA database. The methodology we developed, I will just give you just few words. If you want to know more about this, the methodology behind, you can check this proceeding submitted to IGARS in 2024. And we all actually today we also submitted a full paper on this, and okay, now we're gonna enter in the classic process of review of the papers, but probably when it's gonna be accepted, we'll have way more information regarding the whole chain. So again, as I said before, we have from one side all the data as input, the one that I just showed you. Like precipitation and land use, land cover, OpenStreetMap, and on the other hand, we have the ground truth data, the Disinventar database. So the idea was with a machine learning model using 80% of the data to, let's say, connect to try to estimate with respect to the input the flooding and in particular the affected population and buildings. And the remaining 20% of the data were used for validation. Again, this is basically the methodology. I will not go in the detail of this, but if you give just a very quick glance at it, you can see the data that I just mentioned is in terms of exposure data for the population and flood-related data. They were, of course, standardized and put in a database for training and validation. And again, the value were checked versus the Disinventar database. After we develop the demo, I will just show you the main interface, but will be the object of the presentation of my colleague Miguel in this specific session. After we develop the graphical user interface, we took the opportunity to send it to some champion users, namely the United Nations for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Copernicus ESA, and the World Food Programme, to have a sort of initial feedback on the graphical user interface, and not only, actually also on the whole processing chain and tool. And the analysis is still in progress. I just took some of example of the feedback we receive. I took some example based on the complexity of the feedback with the complexity required of in the implementation of this feedback. For instance, there were some feedback related mainly about the cosmetics of the interface, of the need of information. So this has been already implemented thanks to CMCC. There are some other feedback related to the processing chain, and this some of them were implemented in the backend, but now they're going to be implemented also in the front end, while some other feedback were related, for instance, to the type of query the data, for instance, not only at point level, but some national level, like region, province, municipality. This type of feedback will require a little bit more of work to be implemented, so it's going to be postponed to the last part of the project, which is going to basically be from now until October, November. And some of them, for instance, the requirement of having an API, I think we have to still to discuss internally, but it might be not foreseen, at least for this part of the project. The demo, this is the interface, as I said, this is the object of the presentation of Miguel. If you want to know a bit more about this, how it works, please attend this breakout session. The future steps. So two of them basically I already mentioned. So it was they are related to the implementation of the feedback received from the champion user, and of course, for instance, the audience of this webinar or other possible users with respect to the front end, the graphical user interface, and also with respect to the back end. So the processing chain, the tool we develop, with the output that you would like to see. Another big part of the last part of the project will be the ingestion of initial products related to the drought. So again, if you remember, the indicator is related in general to hazards. We start from flooding, and now we're gonna do a similar effort for a drought. And of course, we tested only on Niger. So it will be also important to understand the feasibility and the interest of extending the pilot to different areas and scales, because of course the machine learning algorithm was trained specifically on the data on Niger. So in case there are some consideration that has to be done if you want to extend the pilot to other type of region and other areas. And I think for me that's it.
Thank you very much, Michele, for this very nice presentation. Before moving on to the panel discussion, I think, Lorena, indeed, we have a short Mentimeter to share with you. You should be able to see my screen now. Let's see.
Yes, it works, Francesca.
Perfect. Thank you, Lorena. So if you can follow the QR code and reply to some of these questions, let me know if it works. It will take, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes max. We have 5 or 6 questions for you. So first of all, I would like to know which organizations are you from and you are representing today. Okay. Okay, to organization. Okay, so the space offices. Okay, so Lorena, sorry, they're asking me to share again the QR code.
I will send the code in the chat.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, I will move on. Where are you joining the webinar from? That would be nice to know. Okay. I'm sure there are many more, but I will move on. In any case, we will be able to see them later. Who do you think is the main beneficiary of this pilot presented? Okay, so dynamic one, academic. Okay, so 2 from government regulatory frameworks, industry associations. Okay, any other guess? Okay, so the majority is confirming indeed the regulatory government. Okay, moving on. What are your expectations from this webinar? So we can see if we have attended this. Okay, quite a diverse understanding and expectations. Perfect. Okay. And then the last questions for the moment is, to what extent are you familiar with the pilot service discussed already or presented so far? Familiar? Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So I will end it here. We will following up very at the end of our webinar to follow up with some questions. So I will stop here. And I will give now. I would like to introduce the second part of the webinar, which is the moderated discussion. I'm going to give the floor to Monica Miguel Lago, our technical moderator for this panel. So, Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Michele, and also Manuela for introduction. The work so far under the SDGs-EYES project. Today, as we discussed, we are diving in on climate security, but not only looking into the indicator perspective, which is one of course, the goals, but looking also to enabling more discussion on the hazard, disaster risk assessment, and all these frameworks. So in terms of registration, it is a pity that the people is not contributing because we have a lot of interest from African countries, from different ministries. We know that there are some limitations, but after this webinar, there will be a report produced and also will be the recordings. So we are disseminating this to the external audience. So basically for the moderator discussion, I thank you once again to the experts that we have on board, because really it's a really enriching group of stakeholders. So we welcome all of them, and we will be looking now into the security challenges in the Sahel region. So as I said, it's not only looking into indicator perspective, but also discussing more on the potential implementation, the replicability, and also your own activities into the field. So we have set a group of 7 stakeholders looking from the operational user. So we look into the workflow program and to the implementation on the ground. So we have service providers as the Copernicus SATSEN, for instance, looking into this support to external actions and security activities. We have also the policy and SDGs dimension with the representation for the UNDRR, the disaster risk reduction. We have also regional institutions from the Sahara and Sahel Observatory, but also Digital Air Africa, and also taking into account the innovation and academia behind. So we have the African Network of Geomatic Professionals led by the GeoMinds Africa. And then we have the African Regional Center for Space Science and Technology. So thank you very much to all of you for joining these interesting discussions. So I will start basically with the people that has been already making some testing and understanding this co-validation, which we feel that is essential for the discussions. So we have these 3 entities, UNDR, Workforce Program, and but also SATSEN. So, but I will start with Syrio because we have the opportunity to better understand how these activities in the research or innovation are really implementing into the ground. So Syrio Modugno is a geospatial risk expert at the World Food Programme, specialized in floods, landslides, but also land degradation, and works on integrating Earth observation for early warning and food security. So thank you very much, Sirio. So with you, we'll try to explore a little bit the operational value of these activities to identify key inputs on early warning, but also try to align these needs that you have with the potential outputs of these research activities. So based on your experience in geospatial risk analysis at the World Food Programme, which are your key challenges that you are having in using Earth observation during the emergency scenario? So when it's really the critical point. So because there is also this translation of data into timely action. So what are your view on these challenges?
Hi, Monica. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, and congratulations first of all for the event. And I mean, very good question. From a humanitarian perspective, the first 72 hours after an event are the key hours to provide to the manager an overview of what is happening in the field. From a Earth observation perspective, of course, the feature closest to this need is the temporal resolution. When we speak about Earth observation, we are imaging always, we are targeting the highest spatial resolution possible. But if I want to break this trend, I would like to emphasize more on the temporal resolution. For example, World Food Programme nowadays working on, in collaboration with the Earth Observation of Singapore, implementing Sentinel-1 radar to elaborate the damage proxy map after an event. The Earth Observation of Singapore provide us a DPM already elaborated by an algorithm, and we implement this to perform some secondary analysis. But in that case, the temporal resolution, more than the spatial one, is the key factor. And unfortunately, Sentinel-1, in the worst scenario, you can wait 11, 12 days, no? So this is an important aspect. So try to imagine an algorithm that can take in consideration multiple inputs to reduce the temporal resolution, and don't be focused only on one input from the Earth observation side.
Thank you very much. I think it's true that we are pushing a little bit the technology on the high resolution itself, but the spatial temporal component is so important, because we have also on board Iria Towson from the United Nations Disaster Reduction, also working in the field. So Iria, maybe I will come back to you a little bit, feeding on what Sirio was mentioned, because these practical cases. So Iria is the program officer from UNDR, focused on the disaster loss and damage. So she's also taking care of the SDG indicator components, so in this monitoring and reporting, supporting the Sendai framework, but also implementing and the implementation and national data systems. So I would like maybe two questions. Maybe your opinion on what the Sirio provide, because you are also very close to the countries and also understanding the situation there. And then also because you are custodian agency from the SDG 13.1.1, looking into this dimension of disaster risk, but also the part of the stress resilience, the number of deaths, but also the proxies like affecting buildings and people. So what do you see the potential of Earth observation complementing this current reporting? So the question about the temporal part, and then this dimension about complementing this indicator reporting.
Thanks, Monica, and thanks everyone for the opportunity to engage in this important discussion. Perhaps I'll pick on first on your second question. As UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, we indeed provide technical assistance in terms of the standard methodology and tools for countries to enhance their tracking or losses and damage, understand the impact of disasters, and also report on those to monitor the effectiveness of their policies and the measures for risk reduction they implement. I believe that there is really multiple opportunities to enhance the losses and damage assessments that feed into this measuring of these indicators. Maybe I think the highest opportunity of using that observation relates on that assessment of the disruption and assessing how the damage to physical productive assets may disrupt livelihoods and might disrupt access to services. So that's also part of it, not always that clear of the indicator 13.1.1, because it's also affected people, and affected people as per the standard targets. The target B is also defined as persons that their housing has been damaged or destroyed, but also how livelihoods are disrupted. And is currently measured through proxy indicators related to how workers in agriculture with crops and damage are destroyed, workers responsible for owners of livestock who suffer livestock loss, or workers employed in productive asset facilities that are damaged or destroyed. So understanding how those productive assets or how these housing or other infrastructure services that support livelihoods, or how crops or livestock is affected, is helpful to understand how livelihoods are disrupted. So that's where I feel there's the stronger potential, while for accounting debts, missing people, I think those is better tracked through on the field assessments and response agents and response mechanisms, because we often have multiple police, civil protection, health systems, and defense forces involved in response that can better track on the field, and using also official data and statistics like census population information. So I see the highest potential of their observation on the part of understanding damage to assets and how that disrupts livelihoods and access to services. On the point that Sirio had on resolution, in terms of the global reporting efforts, we are looking at cumulative figures to understand in one reporting cycle, in 1 year, what was the impact, to monitor progress, to benchmark implementation of policies, so that the temporal resolution for this specific is not that critical as it is in the case of planning humanitarian response and planning humanitarian, doing rapid assessment to understand what are the emergent, like the most immediate responses. So I think that also provide more opportunities to utilize that observation for losses and damage assessment that take into account more the longer term impacts in terms of livelihoods, in terms of recovery, so to inform more the recovery planning rather than the humanitarian response. So I see less of a challenge in the temporal resolution. The spatial resolution for sure is very important, as although at the global reporting level, we are looking at national reporting. We are supporting countries, as you well mentioned, to establish national own disaster losses and damage tracking system to be able to visualize the disaster data and to really be able to track event per event at a very granular local level to understand what are the priorities of investments in disaster reduction and prevention. Thank you.
What a comprehensive response. Thank you very much, Iria, for that. You address something, I mean, comments about this reporting level, but also this connection also with the planning and structuring these actions in advance. So now we moved into the EU provider set, and also because the service to support the external action and security is doing quite a lot of this programming and planning. So Maria Tamani is the project manager of the Copernicus Copernicus CESA with more than 20 years in Earth observations for defense and security purpose. So she's leading projects linking to EO, to external EU actions and the crisis monitoring. Let me start with this question, connected also what Iria mentioned about these strategic views. So how Copernicus CESA a strategy meets the goals of this growing demand of climate security intelligence, bringing the needs between both the security but also humanitarian. So we are looking a little bit into this cycle of stakeholders. So Maria, thank you for joining.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for inviting me to participate here. As you already explained, we're a security service for the External Action Service. We are very much involved into planning and trying to predict somehow where these crises come from. So we are aware actually of this growing intersection between climate and security challenges. We every day more, we are more conscious of how all these climate situations, extreme climate situations, disasters and so on, actually affect conflicts, how they end up with displaced people, with migrations, with even conflicts, because if there's no food, if there's a bad situation at some region, we are aware that this crisis grow. So it's actually has become one of our 11 core application areas. These areas, we are a service that is user driven. So these areas, we actually come up with them because at some point the users have requested them and they have asked us for products or for help at some point under certain circumstances. So we're actually working very much on this for us. We have been working for some time, but there's still a lot to do to understand how all these climate disasters, how all these extreme events actually affect security. And of course, we are involved in several projects such as this one to understand what indicators and how we can use them to somehow understand the context inside these regions. A key part of this is involving multi-source data. So we are aware that we need to integrate not only EO data, but in situ data, contextual information to improve the situational awareness and especially early warning. We would like to understand which regions are more at risk and make aware our users so that they can plan their efforts and their missions properly or with more information. And we're also strengthening links with thematic services such as the Copernicus Climate Change Service. There are many services in Copernicus. One of them, this is this one, and inside this area, we're working very much with them to understand how we can work together to improve all these early warning and situational awareness over these areas, especially in crisis-prone areas such as Sahel regions. So this is what we're doing. As I said, we're involved in several projects for this, and right now our main aim is to understand how these indicators actually affect security, how actually they can end up in crisis or in conflicts, and that's why we're here, to understand what you're doing, to understand what sort of information could be useful for us, which we think will be very much useful for our work.
Thank you very much, Maria, and as well, overall, the three of you for already provided those first inputs. So let's move now a little bit to the Africa version on this, and also not in the EO data providers, but in the Digital Earth Africa. We have now this movement about digitalization itself, and we have Joseph Minir, sorry for this, from he's leading the stakeholders user engagement in Digital Earth Africa, with a lot of experience in this engagement with the national component, but also capacity building, which focuses also on the SDG alignment under Digital Earth Africa. So we are looking, I think Maria mentioned about this data access, putting all the data together, the provision of these data sets from Copernicus. So now from your perspective, and specifically from the Digital Earth Africa, because you are focusing on this maybe data access and use details. So from this perspective, how do you help the countries in these situations? Maybe we are focusing now in the Sahel region, so maybe you could bring some experience about how these data sets are strengthening the climate resilience and managing the disaster risk. So let us know, Joseph, on that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Allow me to thank the team for organizing this workshop. And for us, with our experience of trying to make kind of one stop center for EO data in Africa, we try not only to receive raw data, but also to develop some products and services. And to achieve this, we should first of all understand the needs of each country. And you go through regional centers, what we call implementing partners, IPs, and they can mention agreements in Niger that have been very instrumental in developing a validation of several of our products, OSS in Tunisia, like Afrigist in Nigeria, and CS in Senegal. Those have been very instrumental in the region. And among the very important services we've been developing, we have, if I focus on the flood risk, for as an example, we have developed what you call water observations from space. It's a product that helps us to understand the long-term variation of water resources across the continent. It also could serve as a kind of tool to monitor floods in some regions as well. But also we can combine this with some data from Copernicus program, like Sentinel-2 kind of long-term flood assessment, and also Sentinel-1, or the coverage is limited, which is very key because it's radar and it could be able to overcome some cloud issues. If I give just one example, recently in collaboration with IGO in Niger, a kind of private company, Chef, I saw him online and the team, we were able to monitor some flood events in Ifilenge in Niger, both from long term and short term, and we tried to identify areas that were affected by a flood in October 2024. And that's a great example. And also there are other different applications like crop type mapping and urban green space, wetland monitoring, and others just to inform some climatic actions in the region. And you asked how we collaborate with the government. There are several ways. The first one is, of course, to prove the capacities of our platforms. And if our governments are convinced, and most of the time they are, and we jump to definition of the collaboration framework. Sometimes you go through MOUs. Others would prefer to start small by the co-development of use case and bid for that use case and start to upscale what we've done at national level. And also others would ask us to grant access to our platforms and datasets, or even try to share some IPs to our datasets so that they could integrate what we do with our data in the country. And mostly others require some capacity building our works, because Earth observation is still a challenge, especially in this area of big data. People don't have enough capacity and infrastructure. And next week, and I think now it's the second week of May, our colleague Edward Bauma will be in Niger for a capacity building workshop with agreements. And of course, we keep hearing needs from government, diversifying data interfaces, and also develop new products, because everything dynamic, and also should learn from each other, like the case with this SDGs-EYES next platforms, and we'll see how we can cross-fertilize each other's. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. You mentioned this collaboration issue. I think it's important also strengthening capacity development activities. So thinking in this MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, ERSC has been signing an MOU with REPAC, which is the African Network of Geomatics and Professionals, bringing European service providers with African service providers to try to better serve the needs. So I would like to bring on board Dr. Mansour Barkami from GeoMines also. He's an entrepreneur and also innovator, but he's also very close related with the réseau of professionals Africans in that region. So he's founder of GeoMinds, but is also which is also combining earth observation, drones, artificial intelligence, always for climate monitoring. And he developed his company has developed a drought index in the Sahel region. So we have seen from Michele that they are testing this climate change risk, looking into disaster. They started with floods, but they will move very soon with droughts. So taking that opportunity for advancing also the pilot itself. Let me bring it to you, Mansour, a couple of questions here. One is the relation that ERSC has with FREPAC, with this memorandum of understanding and these collaborations, and how you feel they will be strengthening these MOUs are kind of platform to strengthen collaboration to make impactful or more joint projects and joint activities based on this potential collaboration. That would be my first question. And the second is a little bit more to know about your already research with Earth observation and artificial intelligence for drought monitoring, and how you already are scaling this tool for climate adaptation strategies, and if you are scaling that in different countries in the Sahel region. So thank you, Mansour.
Thank you. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oops. Okay.
But now we lost him.
We hear you, but we lost you. Okay, while you are reconnecting, maybe I will bring another player on board. You also, based on what Joseph mentioned about collaboration and also capacity development, we also have an expert on board on these capacity activities, which is the Felix Buba from the African Regional Center of Space Science and Technology. So Felix,
some connection issue.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was already introducing Felix, but Felix, because we have a no. It's okay. Mansour, you could reply the questions, and then I will go back to Felix. Is that okay? Thank you. So,
okay. Thank you.
Mansour,
thank
please
you so
go
much.
ahead.
Yeah. Could you hear me? I think now.
We can hear you now.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. So I think I will start with the first question about the MOU between ARPAG and ERS. I think this MOU is a real strategic milestone between an Africa collaboration with Europe. It opens a new pathway for structured collaboration, like joint research initiatives and capacity building programs between African and Europe geospatial communities. Also, I think this partnership will anticipate a greater technology transfer, sharing, development of EO solutions to African challenges, and maybe also improve access to European platforms and data sets. Yeah.
Yeah, we have lost you again. I think it is not only me, I guess all of us. Yes.
No,
Okay.
we-
Okay, so let's try to be Felix. I don't know if you are around. Let's try to get you on board while Mansour is reconnecting. Felix, yeah. Okay, so thank you for backing up. So as was trying to introduce you before, you are the academic lead for this African Regional Center for Space and Science, which was a regional center coming from United Nations. So it's a regional training center. So you are expert in Earth observation applications for disaster management, floods, and also the certification in the year. So let's try to move and understanding this role to have a participatory research alongside Earth observation. We know that there are many communities also in the different countries and also coping climate change challenges. And in areas like the Nigeria and Sahel Region, desertification is really an issue, but also contributes to conflicts between, for instance, farmers and pastoralists. So how does combining Earth observation with local knowledge help to inform more effective but also peaceful and sustainable land use strategies? How is your experience, Felix, on this? Felix, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, that is African Regional Center for Space Science. We are a regional center formed by the UN, United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, and we have the mandate to actually develop capacity in space science and technology. Now, there are about 6 key areas where we actually develop capacity for English-speaking African countries. We train people in remote sensing and GIS. We also train people in satellite meteorology, as well as satellite communication, space law, and other areas of space science and technology. Now, apart from developing capacity, we also have scientific teams that carry out research in areas of concern. For example, like you mentioned, Nigeria has about 6 or 5 states that are part of the Sahel region. We have Sokoto State, we have Kebbi State, we have Borno, we have Jigawa. These states are actually found in the Sahel region of Africa. And these states have been experiencing desertification over the years. And this has led to conflicts between farmers and pastoralists, because the advent of climate change has actually exacerbated the problem. When pastoralists are moving, trying to look for pasture for their herds, they actually invade farms, and that is a very, very big source of conflict in Nigeria. Now, we looked at that and we decided to carry out research on desertification, but not only using EO data. We also wanted to use participatory research, because we wanted to find out if the communities affected by desertification have any local knowledge about how this came about and the practices that they do. For example, the type of farming methods they engage in, how they put their land to use, how this exacerbates desertification. So we combined EO data and participatory research, and we found out from these communities that their use of land, the land use, not of farming, actually affects them and then also exacerbates desertification, because they cut down the few trees that are there to convert those areas into farmlands. And then they cut down those few trees that are there and convert those areas into settlements. And these practices are what exacerbates desertification in those areas. And we found out that some of communities had been lost to desertification completely, that they had to move entirely to other communities. So we use EO data to actually delineate areas that have been affected by desertification over the years, because we use time series analysis from previous years to the current year, how areas have been affected by desertification. We use the EO data and participatory knowledge, local knowledge from the people. They told us how they have been coping with desertification and how they have been trying to actually now plant trees. But the major problem is that even if government gives them seedlings and they plant those trees, they do not maintain those trees. So the combination of earth observation and participatory research will actually help us to see better how we can actually curb desertification. Because the EO data will give us a larger picture of the situation, while the community local knowledge will give us a smaller picture of how we can curb the situation. So the combination of these two approaches will actually help us to curb desertification in the Sahel region, part of Nigeria, that part of the Sahel region. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Definitely it's a lot to learn about how to bring local communities and this participatory local research. And also we have on board the Sahel Observatory, Mustafa Mimouni. So he's director of the OSS, the Sahel Observatory for Technology and Information. He's a leading expert on Earth observation and geographical information system. Formerly, he was also in the Algerian Space Agency. He's expert in land cover mapping, vegetation, and monitoring. So I would like to bring on board Mustafa. Is there, I assume? Yeah.
I'm afraid he had to leave the meeting. I don't see him in the list anymore. So perhaps he will be able to join towards the end of the panel.
Okay, well, we move forward then. So, and I would like to bring back a few questions concerning the application or also the testing of the tool itself, and also we know that we get back into the implementation in these areas. So Sirio, let me back to you. So how do you see all these integration data sets supporting? Maybe we get back to the discussions that we have with IRIA about the SDG side, supporting this type of proxies for supporting the information for early warning system and also seasonal response planning. It's information that also helps to better understand also the local and regional authorities. So what are your views on this perspective? About the integration of data sets.
Thank you, Monica. I want to connect dots here. What Dr. Felix just said some minutes ago, how to connect local stakeholders, final user with the scientific working group. So what we have to do is to fill this gap, to reduce the distance. And most of the time we can have the perfect algorithm or an amazing database, but without the chance to reach the final user, because the final user maybe are not technical audience. So most of the time our challenge in WFP is to connect dots, producing thematic map that can be easily communicate the early warning alert to the local government. So I think that we have to maintain this focus and avoiding, of course, working in silos, but stay in the shoes of the final user that most of the time is a not technical audience. Another aspect that I want to remark is the coverage, the geographic scale on an early warning system. The disaggregation is important. So the chance to go in deep at sub-district level is important, but it's also important to have an overall description of the ongoing situation. Imagine when you have a cyclone, a flood, a drought, are all hazard events that have huge geographic scale coverage. So let's take in consideration that we have to do a query as a final user. We want to have, first of all, a snapshot of what is going at national level. So I think that the geographic scale and avoiding to work in silos are the two suggestions from my side. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Sirio. And I probably like to call now Iria, because I'm sure that he will tell us more about this disaggregation, also this regionalization of different parts from local, regional, etc. So maybe this is also one barrier for you on this direction. So maybe comment on what Sirio also just put in now as a key recommendation, but also expanded more about the key barriers you are getting, maybe having this consistency data sets from the different national local points, because you are also connecting quite a lot with them. So bringing with these two topics. So Iria, thank you.
Question. Yes, so definitely the issues of interpreting the data and bringing it to easier interpretation to local stakeholders is key, as Siri was mentioning. Maybe in terms of the barriers we are seeing for consistent and coherent or quality data is related to, some of them are related to capacity gaps in terms of technical resources, understanding of methodologies, but others relate to governance issues. So, for example, horizontal, like between sector institutions, having a data share with ministries of health, Ministry of Agriculture, ministry responsible for public works, and also vertical within government levels, right? From provincial or from community level to provincial, district, regional, and national level. So those are, I think the governance issues are the hardest to address. The technical are hopefully the easiest, and where technology can be more helpful and applications of technology can help further. There is another issue that we also see in terms of global reporting that is related to a fatigue on the reporting. So it's sometimes perceived reporting for the sake of compliance, reporting for just complying with commitments, but not really seeing the application of this for policy making, like reflecting, like we are monitoring our policy implementation, we're monitoring our implementation of global frameworks into our national context, and we should be able to use that data. So that we see as a challenge, like the capacity and to really utilize this data of monitoring for benchmarking and informing policy and investments. And that's where interpreting the data in different ways will help. So we are building like global assessment reports and awareness raising campaigns or key messages on why investing in prevention pays off. Using that data, we are building, for example, we produce a global status report on early warning system for visual case why it's worth to invest in multi-hazard early warning system and early action, and what you can save in terms of avoided losses. So we are using this data to build the narrative, but we need to support governments to be able to also use more of that data, and perhaps with more disaggregated data at the sector level, for example, at the geographic administrative level, that will help the government to use better that data. And that the way we are trying to support this is through engagement with multiple partners and UN agencies and regional commissions on developing a global framework on disaster-related statistics that provide the standards, like that will help more comparability among the data and will help that officializing the disaster-related statistics. There is official statistics in many areas. There's not really official statistics in disasters. And that is a challenge because then it doesn't have the same value as other official statistics produced to inform policy making. So with this, that we hope to be approved next year by the UN Statistics Commission, we hope that governments will further invest in using that data as its official statistics for informing national policy investments. Thanks.
Thank you to you, Iria. I think you are giving a comprehensive understanding. I mean, how this data is really connecting to an indicators, the global UN 2030 agenda, and how the connection with the governments. Let's try to see from the SATSEM perspective from Maria. Because before, Iria was commenting still about barriers, and maybe you also have barriers also from your side about situations where there is a lack of real-time impact assessment limited to operational response, and how, back into your testing phase with this tool, how these methodologies could help to fill the gap.
Thank you. Yes, of course. I mean, our services related to security normally already we're activated already when there's a crisis, when there's already an emergency or crisis or critical situation, and in areas normally not very accessible. So yes, of course, we encounter this problem and not having real-time data as quick as we need very often. I mean, we need this data to create our products and our assessments to be able to help our users. And so we normally don't have this real-time data right away. And SDGs, even though it will not provide us this real-time data, it will support the early phase assessments. So we always start assessing, we always have information about the area. We always make these reports offering pre-processed data and EO-derived estimates of exposure and vulnerability, sorry. So of course, SDGs can help us here, can help us in this initial assessments and early phases assessments. Of course, for our activations, when we're activated, when it's actually happening, what is going to be important is more current data that we acquire specifically for that region, that situation, whatever situation it is. And this data can be related to climate, or maybe related to climate and many other factors that we actually put together and to answer these needs and to help our users under a critical situation. But of course, SDGs and its approach will complement these workflows and will provide us actually this, or at least this is what we want, is to provide us with this contextual and baseline information that will help us build up on the actual situation and help our users with any more specific data that always takes some time to put together and will depend, of course, on the contextual information that we obtained before. So.
Okay, thank you, Maria, so much. I think somehow we get into also that it's not a single data set, obviously it's many, and also backing on what Ira mentioned, this multi-hazard is not only one event, is maybe this event is driven on other events also.
Exactly.
It's yeah. So thank you for this input. Let's get back to Joseph, but then I can see that, okay, Mansour is also with us, and we're very glad because we lost you. So maybe, yeah, we will definitely go from Joseph and also Mansour in a second. So Joseph, we were looking into this, back to this all this platform and also this, how to improve this data accessibility and also the support on this SDGs alignment. We know that you are doing already activities on that direction, and you have been working with Tunisia in collaboration of the National Statistical Office, has been already addressed by Iria, the connection with the statistical dimension. So from that perspective, and also the work that you have been doing from with the Data for Now initiative, let us know about the initiative itself and how the EO data has been able to support the indicator in that experience.
Thank you, Monica. Actually, the work was just to ease the reporting on SDG indicators, because, you know, for most of indicators, custodians have developed the metadata, and this reporting requires the integration of output data sets and also the in-situ data sets. And in Africa, most of the governments don't have enough data to report, especially even the baseline, and the same applies for Tunisia. And our work was to work on some key indicator that could be reported using Earth observation. And we started small by building the capacity of institutions in Tunisia, especially Tunisian statistics, the Ministry of Agriculture, APAR, the monitoring of the coastlines, and the others on the use of our platform to monitor or to quantify some of the indicators. Actually, we worked on 6.6.1 on focusing on mostly on inland water extent, and also the water quality, focusing mostly on the turbidity and the chlorophyll content. And also we did small work on the coastline and the artificialization, but we read that the first one on water extent was very promising. But at the validation stage, there's still a need to look for in-situ validation data sets, because that sometimes data are not available, or even the methodology that was used to quality data set is different from the one specified in the metadata. And now we are at that stage, we tend to harmonize those validation data sets, and also after agreeing on the outputs and also the conformity of our work with the national needs and also the requirement by the custodian, you could say this methodology is validated and could therefore be duplicated in other countries on the continent. Yeah, that's the work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I will pick this word about replication, and I will get back to Mansour on this, because you have been already experienced with the index, the monitoring index, the draft that you have, and also how this index is being replicated, because I'm not quite sure if you finalize that comment before you break out. That is one thing about this replication. And the other is how, in your perspective, is the Earth observation playing a critical role shaping the climate adaptation strategies? But put your hat on the EO service providers, an innovator, a company. So let us know what are these views from your side.
So thank you, Monica. Could you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
okay. Okay, so the Agricultural Drought Condition Index was developed by Geomans Africa. Especially we use Earth observation data. It is a cocktail of data using precipitation data, evapotranspiration data, temperature, land surface temperature data, and also other kind of data combined with the AI algorithms to provide near real-time insight into drought and also land use dynamics. So the tools support climate adaptation strategies by enabling early warning for drought, also optimizing resource allocation, and also informating target intervention for at-risk communities. So the tools use also like historical and current satellite data combined with AI to help farmers, governments, and also development agencies anticipate risk and implement proactive measures like how to adjusting planning calendar, how to deploying emergency resource, and also how to adapting irrigation strategies. So actually the model tools, the tools is working in Niger context, but by some calibrating of the model, it is possible to use like local environmental and social economic variable depending on some countries. So we can adapt ADCI to each local area in Africa. Also, I think AI Earth observation data using for monitoring, flood monitoring, or climate strategies monitoring is a game changer for climate adaptation, because it allows us to monitor about how environmental is changing, and also how to anticipate risk and design some
Yeah, we have break again with Mansour. So, but I think we are more or less ending on here. But let me a final question really to Felix. Felix is back, or because I don't. Yeah, Felix is back. Okay, so Felix, because this direction wasn't coming into the capacity development, and also I will try to better understand. Mansour was talking about artificial intelligence, new tools, also indices. Based on your experience in the regional center, how do you integrate this type of new technologies? I mean, maybe not new, but okay, these trending technologies into these capacity learning activities with to improve skills for reskilling, upskilling these new professionals, or maybe just the people from the government, which is in the direction that the center is doing in this capacity development.
Okay, thank you, Monica. What we do in the center is to have a review of our curriculum as often as possible, because we understand that these technologies keep on coming on and they keep on changing. So we have to keep up with what is going on. So at the moment, there are 6 regional centers under the UN that actually build capacity in different continents in the world. So the 6 regional centers met recently and decided to review the curriculum. You know, all the centers, we all run the same curriculum. So we are in the process of reviewing the curriculum to actually integrate or incorporate new technologies like AI, you know, and other new technologies that are coming up, so that we can upskill our participants, our students will be better equipped to actually use these new technologies to solve everyday problems. Because our focus is actually to solve societal problems. You know, we don't just develop positive just to have a certificate. No, we want to be able to use the technology to solve problems. So we are in the process of reviewing our curriculum at the moment, and we will be grateful to actually welcome suggestions from SDGs if you have technologies that we can actually include in our curriculum that will actually upskill our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's important to see these upgrades of the different curricula, not only in the center, but also in many probably countries that you are connecting with. So we are really ending to the panel, but before going to finish, I think it's now a tradition, a little bit in the previous webinars we did the same, that maybe every panelist just to sum up the panel or with a message, but the message is about 2 words, couple of 2 words. How do you like to take this forward in terms of what is important on discussion on climate security here? Give me 2 words just to close to the end. Any volunteer, or otherwise maybe I will jump to Sirio because you started first.
I will. Thank you, Monica. Nutshell, try to share the output in a friendly way for no coding audience.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to think about a dashboard that is going to share data, let's try to make the life easy as possible to facilitate the operational side of the implementation of the output. Thanks.
Thank you. Very clear messages. So Iria and then Maria, maybe? Yeah, Iria.
Maybe just building on the previous points on the multi-hazard, I think it's a good direction, as you mentioned, that you're already looking at incorporating droughts, because it's the other coin of the other side of the coin of the plaza, right? And I think that multi-hazard and understanding this cascading hazard and cascading impacts is essential to devise not only like multi-hazard warning system, but also prevention and risk reduction measures. So I think that's where the highest applications are, and I think you're going in the good direction. You can already advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria, for taking your expertise and knowledge on board. Maria, let us know what you think.
Okay, well, I was thinking about what Iria just said. Yes, of course, including other hazards. Drought is one of the most important ones. We're very much interested into food insecurity, which is related with drought, and how this actually affects and ends up in conflicts of very different types. So this will be great, of course, including other critical regions. There are many in the world, and being able to extend this to other regions would be, of course, perfect. And yeah, and I think you're going in the right direction. This is at least we're seeing it's a complex issue of this climate security, and anything that can be done and studied is very much welcome. So thank you.
Thank you to you, Maria. Then Joseph.
Well, thank you. I like this work, the initiative. Of course, adding more kind of disasters would be very great, and also trying to diversify the interfaces that are being used to make it much easier to not a programmer that would be great, and also trying to think about interoperability and sharing using APIs, the path to maybe kind of exchange data among partners, like we're doing in the Africa, maybe can layer upon your data, can layer upon ours as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And then Felix.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Monica. And now the thing I can say is that there's a very important module in our program that is called disaster management. It's a whole module in disaster management. And I would like to say that we welcome sort of collaboration. If you can have access to the SDGs technology that we can actually introduce as part of the disaster management module in our center, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to you. And we get back to Mansur. We are, I don't know if you hear, but we are really giving the opportunity to give a couple of words or just 3 words about the final sum here. Thank you, Mansur.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for this initiative. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for this great opportunity to showcase some tools that are already working or some project pilot. I think that is very important. So disaster is a real important impact in Africa and also across the world. If Earth observation data using is a real game changer because we can get insight about how to find some solution behind this kind of disaster. So unfortunately, depending on the connection, I don't have a real chance to present you our solution, but maybe for the next time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. We were really over timing, but thank you very much, the panelists. You give us really good words, easiness, multi-hazards, disaster management, capacity development, how easy interface again, interoperability. So we are going to produce a report and with all of that knowledge, and we will be sharing. And because we are really running on time, and get back the floor to Francesca, our co-chair. Thank you very much again for the panelists. Thank you very much.
So I would like now to bring this webinar to the conclusion. But before this, I would like to ask Miguel and Michele, the representative of each of the breakout room sessions, if in 1 sentence, 2 sentences max, they can give us a short summary of what you have discussed, or some maybe comments or keynotes that came out that sort of are interesting to share. Maybe I can start with Miguel.
Okay. Thanks, Francesca. Well, only 1 sentence, we show what's the current status of the platform. We show the main limitation that now we don't have just partial products as output. Well, we have very interesting questions regarding the time execution of the platform. That's very important. Also, if only the Sahel was covered by this platform. And finally, very interesting too, what was the digital vision model that we consider. So yeah, I think was very useful.
Thanks, Miguel. In fact, the exploitation component came out, let's say, this time, really to understand if this kind of pilot is just, focus on the Sahel region or eventually to other regions. But I will come out in the second to reply as well to this. Michele, from your side.
Okay, I can start. Maybe Monica can integrate after. Our session was mainly dedicated to the issue, let's say, of data. So getting the data, sharing the data. So for instance, it was a comment regarding conflict areas, but of course, getting the data in this area might be more complicated. So the Earth observation data actually can be very useful for this, since they are acquired not being directly on the spot. And also is important to foster the cooperation between the entities having the data. And in any case, data can be need also to be standardized, taking in consideration also the local characteristic of a specific area. So it's important to have something like more distributed, more standardized, but each specific area, each specific location has its own specific characteristic of the data. And yeah, mainly that's it, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Just the final comment on sensibility of the data. That was also mentioned that normally the project uses open data sources, but in these regions they may have some conflicts on sensitivity. But this was a minor point.
Thank you very much. I will then ask you to reply to some last questions on Mentimeter. So if I could have your attention again on this QR code. And maybe, Lauren, you can share it again also in the chat in case. There are some further questions that I would like to ask you. So indeed, the question is, for a purpose of replicability, would you like to be a validation user? So as you know, during this panel, we had with us 3 validation users, which means 3 institutions that agreed to test a little bit this platform, the SDGs-EYES platform, in particular the pilot, and provide already comments and feedbacks. This is not in one-time process, meaning that it's still possible for potential users eventually to test it and to provide feedback. So if this is something that you would like to test, it's very much possible. So I see one person.
Yeah, just to add, maybe the link to Mentimeter is Menti is still is already available in the chat if you lost it before, so you can already link again.
Sorry, Miguel, I didn't understand. Is that?
But because Lauren reposted the link for participating to the survey. Maybe somebody went out and it doesn't have it yet.
Thanks, Michele. And okay, then another question is: would you like to be an exploitation user? This is something that is connected indeed to the exploitability of this pilot. So is it a pilot that is of interest to you, that you would like to explore further possibilities or understanding how to eventually use it in the future? So we also give this opportunity with our task work package leads as well from the exploitation perspective to follow up with you and see how to do this. So I see 3 people interested in this. That's perfect. And then what kind of challenges do you see using this service? So if by hearing our presentations, the different breakout rooms, is it what kind of challenges would you see in using this service? And you can put just one keyword.
And again, the code is in the chat if you are still looking for it.
Okay. Okay, so we have these 2 responses for the moment. I will, since we're 3 minutes away from the ending. Okay, real-time data. Okay. Since we are at the end of the webinar, maybe I will conclude this Mentimeter part. And maybe, Lauren, do we need anything else to share? Indeed, we were going to have a final webinar, the conclusive webinar of this series of Uptake webinars. For your knowledge, we started this series of webinars in back in January 2025. So we will finishing them in May. And we're going to cover instead the topic of forest cover change and soil erosion. For your knowledge, we are going to send you also a Google form, because we would like to ask you some further questions to cooperate together, also an exploitability component indeed. And if you have any other comments to share, you can do it in this way. I will then ask Monica if you have any other conclusive points. Otherwise, we can close the webinar here. And of course, we will be sharing the report and the recording as soon as possible to all of you.
Thank you very much. Just word in closing, I would say that there are many still challenges as a kind of recap about e-operational value in humanitarian, but also in risk assessment, key inputs on early warming, risk analysis, the test scalability, the stakeholder engagement, the limitations of data sharing, skills building, capacity building, bringing together the community. So there are many words that they have been sharing in the panel, but also within the audience. We will be doing this report after this, and we will be sharing with you. So we will build on that. Thank you very much. So Francesca, back to you.
And thank you very much. Invite you as well we will be sending a feedback form it would be very helpful for us. It's a bit the continuation of this Mentimeter survey we just had. So please feel free to fill in this feedback form for us to know how to collaborate and to go on with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.